Hi guys, today I want to talk about how weddings are, quote, supposed to go, at least here in the US and Canada, and then you can maybe tell me how weddings vary where you're from. My name is Brittany from WAYFARINGweddings.com, where I am writing about my own wedding planning, which is currently happening, and also making videos here on YouTube. So if you like this video, please like it and subscribe to my channel and join me for the next year or so. We'll see, TBD. Because we don't have a wedding date set yet. Even within the US and Canada, there are thousands of cultures and religions, and so no two weddings are ever gonna look exactly alike. I'm gonna give you like a very basic cookie cutter version of how the ceremony and reception go, at least at most of the American weddings I've been to. Having said that, we went to a Jewish wedding 7 or 8 months ago, and that timeline and schedule events was completely different than what I'm about to tell you. So take this with a grain of salt, but hopefully it'll give you a very general idea of how a wedding is, quote, supposed to go. And then I want to let you know that, you can do whatever you want. You can completely change this. More and more now, there are just no rules, and you can make your wedding ceremony look however you want it to. A, quote, typical wedding will usually take place on a Saturday and can start anytime during the day, usually in the early afternoon or early evening, so that you have plenty of time to party into the night. And so you will start with the ceremony, and usually ceremonies go for about 15 minutes to an hour, depending. So an hour-long ceremony is really long. It feels really long, and probably like 30 to 35 minutes is an ideal time for a ceremony length. And then what happens at a ceremony in general, usually, and then I say usually with a grain of salt, but what happens often is that there is a processional, which means that all of the wedding party walks in first. So like all of the groomsmen and bridesmaids and flower children and the moms and dads and the groom, and they'll walk in, and then finally the bride walks in with her dad, and everybody stands up. And the groom watches her and sometimes cries as she walks down the aisle toward him. So that's the processional. And then after that, there's often a welcome, either a welcome prayer or welcome remarks, depending on whether this is religious ceremony or secular. Usually the officiant says something. He says some kind of remarks to welcome everybody to the ceremony, and that's that. After that, there's usually a couple of readings. So a person or a couple of people who are chosen by the couple in advance come up to the front and read a couple of pre-chosen passages, either like Bible passages or poems or like excerpts from a book. I have tons of readings. If you're interested, on my blog, I'll put some links below if you need some example readings. There's readings read. Those usually just take a couple of minutes each. They really shouldn't be too long, or else people get kind of bored. After the readings, there's sometimes some kind of ritual, such as a unity candle lighting or sand unity ceremony, or hand fasting ceremony, or a celebration of the hands. Some kind of like little ritual happens. Followed by a marriage address, and this is when the officiant says some words about the meaning of marriage, the importance of marriage, some of the qualities that are useful in a good marriage, such as humility, etc., etc., etc. After that, there is a vow exchange. So the couple either says traditional vows, or sometimes they write their own vows and say those. This is often followed by a ring exchange. So the couple will exchange rings with each other. And finally, we have the officiant give a declaration of marriage. So I now pronounce you married, and everybody cheers, yay! Sometimes the signing of the legal paperwork happens at this time, or sometimes it's left until later. And then finally, there is a recessional, and the wedding party and the couple leaves happily out of the venue or out of the ceremony area. And they usually go off to have a cocktail hour. Well, most of the guests go to cocktail hour, which can be at the same place as the ceremony, or it can be in a second location, while the couple and the wedding party and important members of the family go and take pictures with the photographer for an hour. And then after cocktail hour, people are usually really hungry and a little bit tipsy, and so then the reception begins. And at the reception, it's become more and more common these days to have like a grand entrance of the couple. So the DJ will announce the couple and the wedding party, and they'll all come into the event and everyone's like, yay, they're here. And then the party starts, and the reception can unfold in many, many different ways. Sometimes it gets started right away with first dances, so like the first dance between the couple and the first dance between the bride and her dad, etc., etc. Or sometimes the cake cutting happens early in the night. Sometimes dinner starts right away and the dances start later. It kind of depends on your timeline and what you want to do, how you want to arrange all this. A lot of the traditional stuff happens at the reception, such as like bouquet tosses, garter tosses, all that kind of stuff, and of course dancing. Sometimes at the end of the night there'll be like a grand exit where the couple leaves, and there's sometimes like confetti thrown or like sparkler exits. This has become really popular because of Pinterest and lots of sharing of cool photos online, so lots of couples want this grand exit photo as well. And so yeah, usually from the start of the ceremony until the end of the reception is something like 6 to 8 hours in an American wedding. After the reception, there's sometimes an after party, and that can be anywhere or anything. So people will sometimes just like go out to bars or go over to somebody's house or whatever it is, maybe have a party in the hotel block just as an after party. So those are like the real basics of an American wedding, and I say basics like really, guys, this can be totally different depending on your culture, depending on your religion. It's really becoming so much cooler these days to do your own thing, to change this up a little bit, to incorporate a lot of your cultural heritage, traditions from your background, and to not feel like you have to do all of these things exactly as I just said them. So there is a lot of freedom having said all this, and I hope that you play around with it and come up with a wedding timeline that works for you. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please like and subscribe.